Welcome back to my channel. Celeb Buzz, please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. No matter where you live or what you look like, what color you are, or what country you're from, the braids, the bandana, that special voice that people remember for years, Willie Nelson wasn't just a country music star. He was the heart of American music. For more than 60 years, his songs told stories about people who traveled around, rebels, people in love, and dreamers. He made people laugh, cry, and think, all with simple music and a voice that sounded like it had lived through many things. But now something has come up that feels more serious than any song he ever wrote. A last letter, written by hand, very personal, and only now shown to people. It wasn't meant for newspapers, but for those who traveled with him on dusty roads, heard him on late night radio, and through every song he ever played. When people found it, many stopped to think and listen again to the songs that once played quietly in their lives. It reads like a final goodbye, gentle, thoughtful, and clearly Willie's words. After reading it, one thing is clear. The road may have gone quiet, but his music still hangs in the air like a voice carried by the wind. Willie Nelson was a rebel from the very beginning. He was born on April 29, 1933, in the tiny town of Abbott, Texas, a place with one blinking light and more farmland than roads. Life was tough from the start. His parents got divorced when he was just a kid, and Willie and his sister Bobby were raised by their grandparents who both loved music. His grandfather bought him a guitar when he was 6 years old, and by age 7, Willie had already written his first song. While most kids were learning to ride bikes or play baseball, Willie was working in the fields, picking cotton with his hands and dreaming of something bigger, playing guitar strings that would one day be heard far away from that dusty Texas dirt. Music became his way to escape. It wasn't just something fun to do. It was like a language, a lifeline. He learned from church songs, big band records, the blues, and old country radio shows. Even when he was young, he didn't just hear music, he studied it and lived it. He started playing at local dances and radio shows when he was a teenager, slowly building the confidence that would last for many years. He didn't just want to play songs everyone knew. He wanted to write the ones they hadn't heard yet. Every word in his songs was like looking into his heart, filled with honesty and a kind of sad wisdom that seemed too old for his young age. He wasn't trying to follow someone else's path. He was making his own. That stubborn way of being original would be both hard and helpful for him. After a short time in the Air Force and many different jobs, from selling Bibles door to door to being a radio DJ, Willie decided to go to Nashville, the famous capital of country music. But the city didn't welcome him with open arms. In those early days, Nashville didn't know what to do with him. He looked different. He sounded different. His songwriting was amazing. Like poetry, strange and often too deep for the polished radio hits of that time. His melodies wandered around, his words dug deep. And even though songs like Hello Walls and Nightlife became successful when other singers recorded them, Willie as a performer was still not understood. He worked hard in smoky clubs and dark studios, waiting for the music business to catch up with his ideas. He spent years on the sidelines, playing backup, selling songs for much less than they were worth, and fighting the growing doubts that come when your talent isn't recognized. It wasn't until Patsy Cline recorded Crazy in 1961 that his name started to be known, but even then he stayed an outsider in his own type of music. He didn't dress like the others, and he didn't talk like them either. While others made their image perfect, Willie grew his hair long, wore old jeans, and often performed without shoes. His way of singing was loose and natural. He didn't sing at you, he sang to you, like he was having a quiet talk with your soul. His music didn't just entertain, it told secrets, gave comfort, and made you think. There was a quiet rebellion in every note he played, every word he sang. So he did what legends do. He left Nashville behind and helped create something new, something raw, unpolished, and rebellious. He became one of the main voices in the outlaw country movement, along with Waylon Jennings and Chris Christopherson. Suddenly, being different wasn't a problem. It was his greatest strength. Willie Nelson's life was never about playing it safe. He was a gambler in spirit, an outlaw at heart, and a poet in every line he sang. His journey wasn't made from doing what everyone expected. It was shaped by sharp turns, big risks, and bold choices that most artists wouldn't dare to make. He toured constantly, often doing more than 200 shows a year, crossing the country in his famous tour bus called Honeysuckle Rose. For Willie, the road was never just a way to get to the next stage. It was the stage. It was home, thinking time, and movement all in one. He lived with complete freedom, smoking openly long before marijuana was something politicians talked about, and speaking his mind long before it was popular or safe. Whether he was fighting for struggling farmers through farm aid, opposing wars, or challenging big companies' greed, Willie never tried to be popular. He tried to be honest. You can't be afraid of the truth just because it might make someone uncomfortable, he once said. And that simple sentence became a guide not just for his activism, but for his art. His personal life also showed the messy beauty of the songs he wrote. He got married multiple times, had 8 children, and went through times of public chaos and private pain. He knew what it meant to lose, to fall, and to rebuild. In the late 1980s, when the IRS came asking for a $30 million 0-cent bill, they took almost everything he owned. His ranch, his properties, even his beloved instruments. But Willie didn't quit. He didn't panic. He recorded the IRS tapes, Who Will Buy My Memories, a simple acoustic album whose money went directly toward paying his debt. Then he went back out on the road, not as a man who was beaten, but as a man who never stopped moving forward. It was pure Willie, humble, steady, and unbreakable. Through every storm, he kept singing. When trends changed or critics attacked, he didn't bend. He doubled down on what mattered. And his music became a guide for millions. Songs like Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, On the Road Again, and Always on My Mind weren't just hits. They were lifelines, woven into the everyday lives of fans, playing at weddings, funerals, highway drives, and quiet nights under the stars. His voice, soft, smoky, unmistakable, carried a kind of weathered wisdom you couldn't fake. Fans didn't just admire Willie, they believed him. Willie was never afraid to show you the scars. That's what made his music and his identity so powerful and compelling. That's what made his music timeless. That's what a country song is. He made being vulnerable sound brave. He made regrets sound like something worth singing about. Willie was never afraid to show you the scars. That's what made his music timeless. That's what made it matter. He once said, 3 chords and the truth, as such a country song is. And Willie never stopped living those words, even when the truth was heavy, especially then. In recent weeks, a handwritten letter appeared, quietly found among personal keepsakes tucked inside a worn leather journal that had clearly traveled many miles. The paper was creased at the folds, the ink was slightly faded, but the words were clearly his, Willie's. It wasn't some formal announcement or staged moment. It was simply a note, never meant for headlines, but written from the heart. Shared with his closest circle and gently with the world, it offers a rare look into the mind of a man who has spent his life giving others something to hold on to. The letter isn't long. It doesn't try to impress. It doesn't reach for greatness. It's Willie, plain spoken, gentle, and deeply human. If you're reading this, it begins, then you've probably been with me a while. There's no drama in the words, only warmth. He writes about music, memories, and the unshakable gratitude he feels for the people who help carry his songs. Whether through jukeboxes in quiet bars or road trips under open skies, he thanks his children with quiet pride, calling them my true legacy. He remembers his sister Bobby not just as his musical partner, but as the heartbeat behind every piano note I ever stood beside. He calls his bandmates brothers of the road and thinks about decades of touring, not with tiredness, but with love. The miles wore down the tires, he wrote, but they never wore down the music. Then his words shift to the fans, the lifeblood of his journey. To all my fellow travelers, he writes, thank you for walking beside me. From the smoky honky-tonks to big city stages, from heartbreak ballads to bus ride laughter, you didn't just listen, you lived it with me. And I noticed his signature humor still shines through. I hope someday someone names a weed strain after me, he jokes, something mellow, a little wild, and built to last. But the heart of the letter lies in his thinking. Some nights on the bus, after the encore and the applause, when the world got quiet, he wrote, I'd sit there with my guitar in my lap and think how lucky I am to have sung my truth and been heard, to still be here, and to still feel the music. And then, with the same humility that's always defined him, he ends the letter simply, don't save a stage for me, just keep the songs going. Play something true, and if it moves you, play it loud. Willie Nelson didn't just play music, he was music. His name became the same as the soul of a genre, yet he always stood just outside its borders, carving his own path with a beaten guitar and a steady smoke-lined voice. He was the sound of rebellion and thinking, the soundtrack of slow dances in Texas bars and cross-country road trips beneath starlit skies. His lyrics weren't polished for perfection, they were carved from lived experience. In every verse, you could hear the weight of sadness, the lift of joy, and the strength of endurance. He gave a voice to the outsiders, the brokenhearted, the misfits, the wanderers, and the hopeful. His music welcomed the lonely, the lost, and the ones who'd been told they didn't fit in. Willie fit nowhere, so he built a world where everyone could belong. He could write a heartbreak song that made grown men cry and then follow it with a playful tune about rolling joints on the tour bus. That's who he was, deep, unpredictable, and always true to himself. Over the decades, Willie didn't just stay important. Well, he became a bridge between generations. He played with Frank Sinatra, bringing outlaw country to the world of smooth jazz and swing. He jammed with Johnny Cash in smoky studios and on rocky stages. He sang with Dolly Parton, creating harmonies that felt like warm firelight. He even shared the microphone with Snoop Dogg and Keith Richards, proving there was no place his spirit couldn't go. He helped young artists, not by preaching, but by being there, by showing up, staying grounded, and never losing his artistic compass. But beyond the legend, beyond the awards, he stayed human. He made mistakes. He took responsibility. He forgave. He found peace in his later years, not by slowing down, but by doing what he always did, writing, singing, showing up. Even into his 80s and 90s, Willie was releasing albums, writing books, and touring with his sons, Lucas and Micah. He performed for charities, farmers, and veterans, never chasing the spotlight, just using it when it mattered. He was never interested in being a brand. He was too real for that. He just wanted to tell the truth, one song at a time. Willie Nelson's passing leaves a hole that can't be filled, not just in country music, but in the heart of American culture. For so long, he was more than just a musician. He was a symbol of freedom, of second chances, of quiet resistance. His presence was constant, comforting, like a familiar song that always seems to play when you need it most. And now, in his absence, the silence feels heavier, but his voice, his words, and his spirit remain carved into the soul of American music. His songs are stitched into the fabric of generations. Parents passed them down to their children. Friends played them late at night when the world felt too heavy. Lovers danced to them barefoot in kitchens. His music wasn't just heard, it was felt. Every note, every lyric carried a lived-in wisdom, a tender truth, a wink from a man who had seen it all and still chose kindness. Willie reminded us that life isn't about perfection. It's about showing up broken and still choosing to sing. It's about stumbling, forgiving yourself, making peace with the past, and writing the next verse anyway. He taught us that grace can be found in imperfection, that growing old isn't the end of something, but the deepening of everything that matters. And now, as fans revisit his songs, his interviews, his books, and those unforgettable performances, whether in smoky bars or massive festival stages, one thing becomes clear. Willie never truly left. He's still out there somewhere, in the sway of a steel guitar, in the soft strum of Trigger, his trusted guitar, and in every lyric that dares to tell the truth without apology. He's still out there on the road again, maybe not in a tour bus this time, but in the melodies that refuse to fade, in the spirit that keeps the music alive long after the last note plays, because legends like Willie Nelson don't end, they echo.